Hello everyone, this is Crispina Robert, and this is the pilot episode of the Type A podcast. Okay, with me is my co-host, Edwin Yeo. Hi, Edwin.
Hello.
Okay. First of all, since it's a pilot, we have to introduce ourselves, right? So we're going to talk about who we are. Okay, so until about slightly more than a month ago, I was with CNA. Before that, I was teaching. And where I met Edwin was at the newspaper Newsroom when we were both journalists. That was like 100 years ago.
Yeah, when newspaper was actually still
alive
and a decent paper back then, right?
Okay, so Edwin, tell me, give us your Tinder intro.
Okay, hi, I'm Edwin. It's very nice to meet all of you. Yeah, as Crispina said, we met in the newspaper, I want to say about 30 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Around there, which tells our age. Was there for about 10 years. Then decided money was more important. So I left and joined a communications consultancy where I've been since then. You know.
Okay, he's being very modest. He actually runs the company, right? So you are GM of SPRG Media?
Yeah, SPRG.
SPRG, okay. So it's Public Relations Communications Company?
That's right.
Okay, so Ed, we need to talk about why, when I asked you to be my co-host for this podcast, you said yes.
Well, it took me some time to say yes. Firstly, we were quite drunk. And
okay, this is true.
And secondly, we were, we do this all the time, right? We drink and then we start talking about the world and, we start arguing and stuff like that. And most times it's really good conversation. So when you talk to me about it, I thought about it. It's like, firstly, you're not going to pay me. So there's no money in this. But secondly, I thought, wouldn't it be fun for us to actually talk while we're actually sober? And maybe we can actually solve some of the world's problems and teach people a few things as well.
Okay, I don't know about teaching because I'm a bit confused.
You're a teacher though, right?
No, I was. Okay. So we need to give our 5 friends, the reason why we are doing this podcast.
We have 5 friends?
Yeah, okay, 5 family. Okay, we're going to talk about tech, but not tech for people who already know the tech.
Okay.
I want to talk about tech for people like me. I accept whatever the tech guys put out. I'm constantly amazed at how far things have come, how fast things are coming. But I also worry that we're not talking through what I consider to be a transformational change, right? Okay, so Ed, tell me, you use chatbots quite a bit.
Well, I use AI quite a bit.
AI,
I wouldn't really
chatbots.
categorize them as chatbots.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your favorite?
I think people always say this, right? Like there's a favorite AI and stuff like that as well. Not really. I think the way that we have started thinking about AI, I guess in the past it was a bit different. When first ChatGPT came, it was like, it can start writing our press releases for us and stuff like that as well. And then there was this whole wave of, if you write on ChatGPT, you're actually like cheating and things like that as well, right? I think today is a little bit different. And we're only talking about 2 years ago and 2 years today, right? So That's how fast it actually was.
Yep.
Today, in the workflow that we actually do, it's actually what we call a technology stack, right? You don't just use ChatGPT. You use different kind of AI platforms for different functions. You run through a workflow, right? And essentially, I think what I like to think of it is what AI really is actually intelligence, but intelligence on tap, right? Meaning that you can actually extract intelligence anytime you actually want. It helps you think better. It helps you understand the world better. And then it helps you write better. And it helps you to be able to deliver strategies better as well.
Does it help you write better though?
It does. And at the end of the day, it goes back to the fundamentals actually never really changed, right? And this is the understanding of what we have done over time, which is not about writing the press release, right? It's about forming the narrative and forming the story. Like it or not, the world actually revolves around stories, right? If you think about anything in the world today, whether it's politics, whether it's corporations and all that, right? It revolves around stories. The value of people like what we actually do, and to a certain degree, journalists as well, right? It's what kind of stories do you actually tell, right? A press release is more an execution and implementation of a story that you actually devised in the first place.
Yeah, but right? I'm talking about the process, right? And it cuts down your process. So I'll give you another example. Yeah. So in my previous employment, AI was integrated at scale. So the whole newsroom has, I think all newsrooms have it now. Yeah. So I was talking to a senior editor And she basically said, look, you made my life so much easier. Right? It's cut down my work. Wait, hang on. So what she says is she asks it for headlines.
Yeah.
And asks it for like a structure of the story.
Okay.
In minutes, she's got that, something to work with, rather than starting to think from scratch, right? I mean, you think about the impact of that.
I don't want to say anything.
No, tell me. What do you mean?
But
you
that's
can
a very
tell?
shallow way of using AI, right? So I think this is...
Okay, your shallow is my 90%. Like people I know who use AI.
So I give you a very good example. I mean, we're not here really to talk about my industry, but just to use that as an analogy, as an example, right? When you talk about putting that headline together and that story together, for example, right? And in our work, it is usually when we put this piece together, how do we get the journalist interested in it, right? What AI can actually do is you're saying, okay, this is the kind of story I want to pitch to the media. Which are the media, which are the journalists I'm actually thinking of pitching to. What the AI then does is aggregate basically all the stories that this journalist and that journalist have written over the last 1 year, 2 years, and things like that as well.
And does it tell you shouldn't approach Crispina because she's not a good journalist?
No, it will tell you what kind of stories Crispina is interested in and how does she write, how does she analyze a story, what kind of pitch that she'll more or less actually respond to at the end of the day, right? And how do you make it interesting for her? Then you basically say, with all the information, right, and this is the angle and this is the story I want to tell, how then, should I basically craft the angle and craft the headlines and stuff like that of the press release or the media pitch?
So you're saying it's a good thing?
I think it's a really good thing because over the last 1 year or so, you can see that firstly, the results are a lot better. Number two, the staff and especially junior staff who really embrace it, firstly, you don't have to worry about grammatical errors as much anymore, and secondly, the angling is sharper. And thirdly, the strategic thinking is a lot sharper as well, right? So it's a good thing. When we think about AI, and again, this is a very narrow definition of AI. I just want to be clear about this, right? I know it's very strange that I'm a consultant and you're an ex-journalist and we're here talking about technology when none of us actually work in technology firms, right?
100%.
But I'm actually quite an expert in AI. I've been studying it for about 40 years since I started watching Terminator. So people laugh. That
makes a lot of people experts, Edwin.
People laugh at this, right? But I seriously, a lot of times when I talk to people in the industry, in the tech industry and the AI industry, and I always joke about the fact that, Terminator and Skynet, we're all going there. One day this is all going to happen, right? And you know something? Every one of them agrees with me. Okay. Every one of them agrees with me that the progress that is actually being made and the speed that is actually being made is that one day the self-awareness of the AI is going to come, right? And it's not much of a logical leap that the self-awareness of the AI will eventually lead them to conclude that humans are basically the scum of the earth,
and should be destroyed.
Probably, right?
So, so I listen to quite a lot of these guys who, talk about AI on podcasts, right? And so to me, right, the world is divided into two halves in terms of the views. So on the one hand, people say that AI will make humans better, right? In a way that we have not seen before in any of the previous industrial revolutions, etc. But on the other hand, and some of these guys were actually creators of these systems. They are sounding this death knell about humanity. They're saying that there's a massive moral panic, in other words, about how AI is not just going to change, all our systems, right? How we think, how we interact with people, even how we love, right? Because now they're bots and they're
fake AI girlfriends, right?
Fake girlfriends, right? And frictionless relationship. Who doesn't want that, right? So the whole point of this podcast is not to take a position, because I think there's a lot of confusion in the middle. Actually, to be honest, I don't even think governments know what's coming around the bend.
I don't think humanity knows what's coming around the bend, right? It is essentially a bunch of tech pros who wants to make a lot of money, who won't stop trying to compete against each other and outpace each other, right? And therefore the technology will get better and better. But they are making the money while we are losing our jobs, right? I mean, the power structures have always been unequal. I totally agree. Yeah. But this one seems pretty unequal. Let's tone it down a bit and look at historically the world as it is, right? Okay. Every paradigm shift and a big paradigm shift will affect a group of people, and usually a large group of people as well. And let's not even talk about from a macro scale. Let's talk about our time as journalists, right?
Yeah.
So when we started being journalists, it was print, right? And you remember the process of print. After we write our stories, then there'll be people editing it, and then people laying it out, and then somewhere down below there was like a big room where 150 people were basically cutting bromides and pasting into printers, and then they go into the print machine, right? When we started doing desktop publishing, those guys started losing their jobs, right? And they had to be retrained, right? So, so any paradigm shift in technology, that's always going to be the case when it comes to jobs, right? Now, the flip side of it is, are new jobs actually being created? Are skill sets, being trained at a younger age so that you come out and you're actually able to adapt, to a new world that we're actually living in, right? Now, whether AI is the kind of paradigm shift that will stop even that, because even the young people who are coding today and are learning to be engineers, will they still be relevant by the time they graduate, screwed. Right?
If you ask me.
Right. Now, that's a valid question. That's a good question. But again, I think it is one of those things that humanity needs to find a way to actually adapt to this.
Right.
And what is it? It's a constant question, right? Whether it's in what we do, whether it's in anything else, whether you're a doctor or anything else, right? You do think about whether you can be replaced.
So at Davos, right, the recently concluded Davos meeting, the Anthropic CEO, Anthropic, for some of you who use it, is Claude, right? He kind of made headlines when he said that AI would be capable of doing most, maybe all, of what a software engineer does, right? End to end. You know what's the timeline, he said? 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, very likely.
And he even said that the engineers at Anthropic who are coming up with Claude code are using AI. So in other words, they're using their own product. Yeah. So the human engineer is actually looking at what AI has given, and then they tweak it and they change it, etc. Okay. So previously you would probably have to train no code, etc. Maybe it will come to a point where you don't even need that.
It might be. And again, this is where the part about AI as a paradigm shift is a little bit uncertain compared to the previous paradigm shift, like your internet, for example, right?
Or smartphones,
right? Because your internet fundamentally doesn't self-learn over time. And the concept of AI is that it self-learns over time, and it's able to do things without instructions, without prompting, without coding, right?
That's right. Yeah.
In theory, that's what AI is supposed to be. So you then got to find the value as a software engineer. Like, what do I bring to the table? Probably is no longer the ability to write good code, for example.
And then what? Your entire,
your ability to understand code might be critical. Your ability to understand that the AI that is writing code is not heading the right direction or not producing the product that you actually want. That might be what the software engineer could bring to the table. Today, I don't look at whether the press release is well written or not. I look at whether the angle is relevant and the story is relevant or not, right? When I read a story in the press today, right, it is really more with a critical lens in terms of not just stories in the press, even when you talk about politicians giving speeches, right?
Can you tell when somebody has written something and used mostly AI?
I don't think it matters. That's the most important thing that people need to come to grips with.
You don't think it matters?
It does not matter.
Oh my God. Okay. I got like 3 birthday messages last year. Yeah. And they were all like AI generated.
Yeah, that's because the people who are using those AI to send you the birthday messages were lazy. The people who are good at using AI messages, you won't know that they actually use the AI to write it, right? So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't...
I would be upset if somebody said, what my writing, is it AI? I would be upset because, it takes away all of the skills. For example, my voice, which I have cultivated. So you're saying I'll just use a machine to replicate my voice,
and
right?
I'm going to say this again, which I think people are still coming to terms with, which AI is not fundamentally, in my opinion, at this stage anyway, or anyway in the near future, a replacement for creativity and originality. What AI actually does very well is an aggregation, right? I mean, especially some AI platforms are really very good in aggregating and analyzing and synthesizing, general opinions, general expertise, and things like that as well.
Yep.
Creating something out of nothing still remains very much a human ability to actually do, right?
Creating something out of nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you think about movies, for example. Do you want to watch the same movies over and over again? Sometimes Probably
Okay,
not. You
yeah.
get tired after a while,
Yeah,
right? You
sure.
want someone to come up with original ideas, things that you've never seen before, right? And that's not something that at this stage anyway, an AI can create. I'm not saying that it can never create it. Just at this stage, they can't really do it, right? And it's no different from social media analytics in the past, right? And why BuzzFeed, for example, used to write the kind of headlines you used to write because they say, oh, this got the most hits. So I want to write the same headline again,
Right.
the same headline again, the same headline again, right? Those headlines will never be award winning because those headlines are just to serve a function of getting the clicks, right?
So exactly, right? So we don't know for sure what's going to happen. The fact that it's moving so fast to me is one of the things. Okay, but one more thing before we kind of move away from the jobs and like what's the impact. You know, so Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO, so he always says this, right? He always says, oh, don't worry so much about AI because, you know, there's so many opportunities and, you know, anyway, we need to build all these data centers and, you know, we need electricians, we need tech people, we need plumbers. So don't worry about it. So I was thinking about this, right? You know what? I don't really want to be a plumber.
Okay.
I have problems washing my bathroom, yo. Why do we think that that's okay? Oh, don't worry about AI. You can, you know, do some.
Let me flip this around and then
Cut
put
hair.
an existential question to you, right? We all worry about losing our jobs. We all worry about AI coming to replace our jobs. Now, when we talk about losing our jobs, what are we really worried about? We are worried about losing income, for example, right? And then
Yeah, sure,
poor, right?
100%, yeah.
What if AI evolves to a stage where it can solve poverty?
How is that even possible?
But what if it can work out a system of existence in this world where maybe currency isn't what we need to trade? You know, what if
Oh
it
my
can,
God, this is so meta. Okay.
right? So if you really want to say what is the potential of what AI can actually do, right? AI done in the right way or evolving in the right way may not decide to kill humanity, might decide this is how best we can actually help humanity, right?
Okay.
And one of the biggest problems that humanity has is the accumulation of wealth right at the very top. What if AI figures out a way that wealth can spread across humanity, right? And you eliminate poverty and therefore eliminate the pressure to get an income.
Okay, my counterpoint to that is nobody will ever give up their wealth
That's right. So
voluntarily. Although, you know something? This Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, he basically said that his feeling is that the world could see a 10% GDP growth when it comes to AI. Massive wealth creation. But it will happen at the same time as 10% unemployment, which means massive displacement. So eventually, maybe the AI companies have to start paying more taxes to support the displacement.
And again, that's a human way of thinking, right? So again, limited by his human frame of understanding how things could evolve, right? But again, if you go down a path of what AI can achieve or what the artificial intelligence can achieve in the way they evolve, you don't know how they're going to evolve. You don't know what they're going to decide. You don't know the kind of, if they are able to tap into originality and creativity, they might find solutions that we could never imagine, right? At the end of the day, if you talk about why the world is in the state that it is today, a lot of it plums from the fact that there isn't really enough management and regulation, because the people who are managing and regulating are also humans, also have human needs, right? And also sometimes
they are greedy?
Sure, right? And therefore, sometimes the way a society is structured or finance is structured is then structured to basically benefit a community among themselves that keeps them in a position of power at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that's how most societies work, right?
AI would lack that motivation of needing to protect itself per se, right? It would then start looking at it holistically and say, what's better for 7 billion people, you know?
Okay, your outlook is quite positive.
I'm not being positive. I'm just saying that all options are on the table. They could very well kill us and destroy us as the solution that they actually find, or they could basically say, hey, this is actually a better way of running this planet.
I don't think it's those two extremes. It's not just about killing and destroying, but it is also about the slow shift to displacement. I'm not even employed now with somebody, right?
Sure.
But I get anxiety reading in the papers or reading in the news about how you better learn how to use AI, or, you know, you better know AI tools. I mean,
and that's not wrong in itself, by the way.
It isn't.
It's not wrong in itself. What I'm just saying is that fundamentally, if you follow the money of how AI is currently being made, it is still very, very human, right? Now, firstly, the understanding needs to be this. the companies who are basically producing your AI platforms are not the ones making money right now. Maybe they eventually will, but right now they're not. Right? But there's an ecosystem that has built around it. Jensen Huang being one of the ones who benefited from it. So your Nvidias, your Microns, and guys like that, they are the
All
ones
your
making,
energy companies.
they are the ones making the money. Right? Consultancy guys like us, for example, going out there helping companies be AI ready. That's money that we're actually making as well, right? So if you follow the actual money, right, there is actually
Money to be made.
Chip makers, cloud providers, right, consultancy firms and guys like that. We can make money, but the actual company producing the technology today have not yet made money, right? Because they are subsidizing our use of AI today. The dynamic changes when they want to start being profitable, right? Because the investors will not invest in it for
which is
too
why
long.
ChatGPT has now, rolled out ads, right? Or will roll out ads.
Yes, they'll find different ways to navigate this, right? Now, what I'm trying to say is why I frame this as a very human problem, and the displacement comes as a human problem is because of the human need to basically make money, right? What they don't understand, I think, again, expertise of 40 years, is that the AI eventually takes over that process and they don't need money. They're not motivated by money. The AI will not be motivated by money, right? The AI will be motivated by a purpose and an objective that it basically wants to achieve at the end of the day. So if you think about that, right, will that displacement of the 10% unemployment actually happens? Will the accumulation of wealth at the 10% at the top still happen if the AI comes in and disrupts the way the world is actually being run?
Okay, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it. I
won't be alive to see this, I think. But then again, the way that it's evolving, you don't know.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around this. All I know is that I do think that this is something we kind of need to get experts on our show to break it down for us, right? I mean, we'll get people who are in the business to explain, for example, what do we win? What do we lose?
Yeah.
Who's making the money? Why am I not making the money, essentially, right?
Yeah, but
Is it the top 2%?
You can ask that question about anything, right? I mean, when there was a .com boom, why did we not leverage on it, right? When there's a startup boom and all these young billionaires and millionaires started coming, why did we not do that, right? So you can ask that question in any generation at the end of the day, right?
I'll tell you what was different about the .com. I know we talked about this, right? It was like, I don't even remember the .com boom. I was an adult, obviously, working, but we were impervious to it, right? Because I was still in the newsroom. You might have been out.
Oh, no, I wasn't out yet.
For me, it was, of course, I knew people who lost their jobs, etc. But for me, it was as if the .com, the whole thing about, the internet, all that was still not real. But now AI is real to me. I'll give you an example in what I mean by that, right? Is when I first started doing podcasts, it would take me, I'd say, half a day.
Yeah.
Easily. To think about what's the angle of the episode.
Yeah.
Do the research, because I had to go to Google and I had to go, to all the different sites, all the different institutions, etc. Then synthesize the thing and then write out my questions.
Yeah.
Half a day. Now it takes me, I'd say, 2 hours tops. Not even that. Okay. So what this means for me personally is why it's different from the .com thing is because now is demonstrably changing, my life, my output.
Yeah, but people who grew up with internet, for example, right?
They don't think that that's
They will not remember the days before the internet, right? Now, when you grow up with the internet and you're a bit younger than me, so you probably did grow up with the internet, right?
I did not. My kids did.
You don't remember how slow things were prior to the internet. Right?
Oh, I remember.
Right. And if you think about that shift when the internet came in, right, and especially when Google came in and search became a real thing, right, there was a very demonstrable shift in our ability to get things done faster as well. That's not new. Right?
Okay.
When you used to remember when we were in SPH and we wanted to send communications to people, we wait for them to come back through fax and it goes into a pigeonhole, and then by the time we actually receive it.
Those terrible PR folks would say, send us your questions, and then at 5 o'clock they're out the door. Right.
So remember that even that communication process back then could take days, and then when email came in, it was like instantaneous, right? But
you see, the time lag for me, it's the time lah. It's how long it took for that to happen. It was a kind of a slow burn, you know what I mean? It's like a relationship that kind of slowly, changed. Now,
What do you mean by slow?
hey, look, ChatGPT came out 2022.
Yeah.
I think
Wider adoption was probably more like 2024, 2020.
yeah. So 2024
yeah.
was apparently the hyperscaling.
Yeah.
My friends in their 50s and 60s, and I'm not kidding, they want to see how much protein they're taking in their diet because they're tracking their protein. So they would take a picture and then they would put it through ChatGPT. And so everybody's using it.
Yeah, I would probably again say that we are looking at AI. If we're discussing it down the line, it's a very narrow definition of what AI is doing because you're relating it to our life and our work.
Okay,
right?
so which is why I asked you to be my co-host because you are a super user. My friends and I, we are basic.
Not really super user in that sense because again, I'm still using it in the definition of my professional life and my personal life, right? But the AI possibilities go way beyond what I can use it for, right?
Okay, for now.
It won't be that long, It won't be that long. And again, the speed of light that it is progressing at, what is the real gap between AI and what else it can take over? For example, it is actually the physical part of it, right? Because AI right now exists in a digital space, right? But if you transfer that digital space into robots, for example, that again paradigm shift. Right, because the moment the robots robots have fine motor skills, for example, right?
We're gonna talk about robots.
Yeah, you think about it. Doctors, you think about construction work, you think about everything else out there. The moment robots hit, again, you bridge that gap with the physical world and things change again,
Oh my God. So
therefore, again, you can see it as a good thing or a bad thing. You will see it as a bad thing because you think it replaces you. You can also see it as a good thing if it replaces you so that you can just go and enjoy your life.
But you need money to enjoy your life.
What if it's making money for you? What you know I'm trying to say? So
as in a bot who is working for
me.
You,
right?
Oh,
so again,
I could get by.
So again, we tend to panic. We tend to panic. We tend to veer towards negativity when we look at these things. The truth of it is we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know, right?
Okay.
And I don't think the experts know either.
Yeah. Okay, we got to wrap. Okay, let's do quick fire. Okay,
Sure.
I want to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10. How dependent are you on your AI?
10.
GPT?
Okay, 9. Because not my girlfriend yet, so still got a gap to go.
Oh my Lord. Okay. When was the last time you Googled something?
Wow. I don't remember. For real.
For real?
Most of my information that I seek today comes from one or another AI platform.
Okay, so how many do you use?
AI platform?
Yeah.
Minimally 3. On a daily basis, if I need to do certain functions, up to 4 to 5.
Up to 4 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a workflow.
Oh, it's part of your, professional. So have you asked AI a deeply personal question?
Of course. And
should I break up with my girlfriend?
Yeah, sometimes. But I think more importantly, like therapy, for example.
And did it give you a satisfactory answer?
So my way of doing things would always be, okay, let's see what the AI can actually do, right? And then you go and see a real therapist, right? And then you compare the advice the therapist gives you and what the AI is actually saying, right? About similar at the end of the day.
How can it be similar?
Yeah, and actually I talked to my therapist about that, all right? And it was quite funny because when I told my therapist, hey, actually, your job's at risk too, right? And she went, I know, and she's saying that she got to think about how, they can actually function in a space where the AI cannot perform, for example. And I think that's going to be really hard because what the AI really does is it aggregates best therapeutic advice, right? But it's not so customizable to me yet, per se,
and
right?
It doesn't talk to you, right?
It doesn't eventually learns to talk to you.
Look at you and, I don't know, say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
That's the physical gap, yeah? That's the physical gap where there is still some value in humans,
that's right?
But again, when robots come in, that physical gap gets plugged.
I swear, a kid who is now 10, he's not going to care about the physical gap anymore.
No, as in by the time he grows,
he's completely gonna just rely on.
By the time he grows up, the robots may be real to him. The robots may just be a way of life, right? So whether the robot serves as servants or whatever, we don't know. We don't know how it's going to go. Could it function as a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a partner for the rest of your life? We don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, it will function as a girlfriend and boyfriend.
Well, you can, but then
It's not
humans,
science fiction anymore.
But humans might come in and try to stop that. Regulations might come in, religion might come in, morality will probably play a part. So again, we can speculate all we want. The truth is we don't really know how it's going to.
Okay, final question. In an age where machines do most of our brain work, what's the one thing you think will be valuable?
I think, to be positive about this, right? We talk about brain work in so far as very often our ability to do our work better, for example, right? But at the same time, sometimes doing our work is actually what stops us from being smarter as well, because we don't have enough time to actually learn more things, learn new skills, right? Do more new things, experience more new things, right? We are 8 hours a day confined to the same thing that we do over and over and over again, right? If that's removed from our life and we're free to basically do anything we want to do today, for example, will we learn more? Will we interact with humans more? Will we know what life is like in India better than we do from reading it from a book, for example, or reading it from a newspaper? Could we travel more? Could we understand the world better?
So,
I don't know.
Okay, no, give me a short answer. So what? People could be more interesting?
I think it will still fall back to how lazy you are and how hungry you are. I think that will not change. Whether AI is there or not there, that's always been a definition of humanity in terms of scaling us on a hierarchy, right? How hungry are you versus how lazy you are, right? The usage of AI is the same thing. Some people use ChatGPT in the same way for 2 years. Some people every 3 months changes the way they use ChatGPT, changes the way they use AI in total, right? That's not an AI trait. That's actually a human trait. So I don't think it will change. I think whatever evolution AI actually makes, the core definition of humanity will still come down to how hungry are you or how lazy you are.
I think that it probably cannot replace, how you raise a child, for example.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
You're in this Terminator world. No, I think, I still believe that there are some things that you shouldn't let AI do. For example, spending time with your kid in the park.
Yeah, but what makes you think that couples in the future even want a real child?
Yeah, this is also very depressing. Why is everything
if you make the point about having a flawless partner, a flawless girlfriend, a flawless boyfriend, why would you not want a flawless child?
Oh my God. Okay. No, for those of you who have children, please,
don't stop having children, right?
Don't stop having children. This is such a big topic in my mind, right? It's like it's biting off an elephant, so to speak.
Yeah, but we are somewhat being a little bit speculative of what will happen in the future. I will tell you, next episodes we should focus on actually what is actually real right now. And what I think is real right now is whatever development we are going to see in the short term is motivated by money. And what we should be doing is following the money, right? And seeing who's benefiting from it, who's making money from it, how does the economy actually being impacted for
100%.
It, right?
I think, exactly.
And I think the next episode we'll probably bring someone to come on board.
We will.
Who knows about money, and then we can talk. I don't know money. All I do is spend money and go into debt, right? So I'm the worst person to talk about.
You know money more than I do. Come on, you're a fat cat GM. Don't be so modest now. Okay, guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Okay, this is just our very first episode. We intend to bring people who can come and talk to us about all the things. As you can see, right, there is no consensus on something like this because it's just so confusing to me right now. But yeah, so if you chuckled at least once, maybe you want to follow, you want to subscribe, and more importantly, if you know someone who's great at breaking things down when it comes to tech, society, impact, money, etc., please hit us up. All our details are in the show notes. Yeah. Thanks, Edwin.
That's great.
That was fast.
Could we drink next time though?
I think we can. Okay. I can just put the gin in my water bottle. And
maybe
pretend.
Get sponsors, alcohol sponsors. That'd be great, right? Yeah.
No. We please do not drink, Okay. Thank you.
You can drink and pod.
See you guys.
See you. Bye.